Welcome everybody! Souldin of the Grin Bros here, and it's E3 time. More specifically, E3 2021 time. And even more specifically that, a video after E3 2021 time, when, the dust has settled, the news has come out, and more clearer information has come out about a lot of these games. So now it's a good time to talk about E3 as a whole this year, or at least as much of it as I was able to watch, because I may have made a reaction video, as you may have already seen. If not, there'll be a link to it on the Microsoft / Xbox and Bethesda and the Nintendo Direct presentations. However, I only reacted to them because they were the two major players, they're the two system owners, and also the two most likely to have stuff that interests me. So, there were actually a few events which I've watched, because I made sure to watch plenty of E3 events that I didn't react to. I did make some status posts about them over on Tumblr. There's some Tumblr posts about them if you want to just read up some of my thoughts on them. But I figured I'd also talk about them within a video here, as well as my thoughts on the Xbox and Nintendo, sort of after the fact, after, I've been able to have a bit of time to think about it, as well as, after more information has come out. For instance, some of the games which I was excited for, turns out they're not releasing on systems I actually own and stuff like that. So, very hard to be excited for a game which you're probably not going to actually be able to own. So let's see. This year I watched the KOCH Primetime, Wholesome Direct, Ubisoft Event, Square Presents, Limited Run Games, Capcom Presents, and of course I watched the Xbox and Nintendo presentations. There was apparently quite a few others. Bandai Namco had a presentation, though apparently they showcased only one game for like 40 minutes sort of thing. I think there was like the Summer Games Fest, which I believe that's when Elden Ring got shown off for the first time. Not really any interest in Elden Ring, though I did see the Maximilian Dude's reaction to it, so I do know about it, but I've got no real interest in it. Like, I already got my sort of Souls game in the form of Code Vein, and I'm happy with that. Let's see, what else? I believe Take-Two had a presentation. I believe that was the one which was, they apparently showed no games, had a Zoom presentation, which was basically on social commentary. I think that was the Take-Two one that did that. I think Gearbox had a small presentation, and I think there was like one other company. I think Future Games was supposed to have some sort of showcasing, but I wasn't able to actually find the right stream for it. And Summer Games Fest was such a terrible time for me to actually sort of stay up to watch. Oh wait, Warner Brothers also had one, but that again was also a singular game, I believe, that they showed off. And I believe they already announced that during the Xbox event, and I wasn't interested in the precise game that they actually ended up showing off, so I didn't end up watching that. Also, interestingly, I did make an E3 Hubs video, and to my surprise, some of the things actually did end up happening in the E3 Votes video. But that I'll get to later. And so yeah, E3 as a whole, I was pleasantly surprised in quite a few regards. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag, but to be fair, the pandemic and everything has kind of hindered things, but frankly, there was a lot more here than I was expecting, and I ended up finding it an overall enjoyable thing. Particularly through watching such a diverse range of presentations meant I was able to see a lot more games that might interest me that I might not have otherwise seen. For instance, I don't usually end up watching like indie game presentations, but I watched two of them here with both the Wholesome Direct and the Limited Run games. Xbox delivered quite a good focus on like over the coming year sort of thing, next year and beyond, and Nintendo did quite a good bit for this year specifically. So I think there was a good bit of balance. But let's see, the first one I watched was the KOCH Primetime, which is apparently like a media label, a sort of publishing label of like 6 to 12 developers all got together and decided to publish under a singular label, apparently to make it easier, and that was interesting. They had a pretty neat trailer to start things off, and there was a couple of games that interested me. Gungrave Gore had a pretty cool looking trailer, but I believe that's also going to be PS4 and PS5 only, so it's that kind of kills off my interest, given I won't ever play it. The one game that really did interest me was Scars Above, sort of like third-person horror sort of game on an alien world sort of thing, or sort of horror action game, more leaning a bit towards the action, though they tried to set up a pretty good horror atmosphere. That looked pretty cool, and it had the best showcasing of it for the entire KOCH Primetime. The KOCH Primetime wasn't a particularly great showcasing, but it had some cool elements. Like, they had a nice sizzle reel at the start. They had these developer interviews throughout. However, they often weren't showing the gameplay footage as the developer interviews, or weren't giving individual trailers to each of the games, and because this was the first time I'm seeing a lot of them, I didn't actually know a lot of the games they were actually talking about. I didn't know these games off by name alone at this point, because a lot of them were new IPs as well. So that was a bit of a problem. Like, I find developer interviews fascinating, but that wasn't the right way to do it. Ironically, the Wholesome Direct, which followed it, had the opposite problem. KOCH Primetime had the problem that they didn't show enough gameplay trailers. Wholesome Direct had the problem that there was nothing but trailers in a rapid-paced thing, and there was like 70 games. It was so rapid and so fast that I was having a hard time actually seeing what game was what. And because there was no like developer interviews, not all these games are easily explained via visuals and sound alone. Sometimes you actually do need the developer or also a commentator or a narrator to sort of like explain bits about this game. Here's what you do. Here's how you do this. Here's your like standard sort of events throughout the game sort of thing. Here's some of the exploration. Sometimes you do need that. There needs to be a good balance of trailer and gameplay, as an actual gameplay, not just like a CGI trailer, and commentary, be it from a developer or a narrator. Those things there needs to be a good balance of, I feel, in these presentations. That said, because the Wholesome Direct packed in so much, there was a lot that caught my eye. Here Comes Nico looks like a fun sort of like 3D platformer where you go about helping townspeople in various like objectives, be it mini games or like platforming challenges, with like a Paper Mario style protagonist or thing that you're 2D, but the platforming looks a lot more solid. Pecco is a game about cats and tea, which, whilst the actual gameplay itself doesn't look like my sort of thing, it theming wise, it certainly nailed it well. Tractor Thoughts is like a turn-based card game where you about personalities and discovering yourself and how to resolve situations, but as like a card-based battle. Kiwi is a co-op platforming game where you play as Kiwis in a post office, delivering the mail and right things, and going through these levels in order to actually put the packages and deliveries in the right places. The Gecko Gods is a lovely looking sort of designed 3D world as you platform as a gecko. Bao Cakes is a turn-based RPG where you're cupcakes. Very cute. Witchery Academy is basically like a Harvest Moon life sim sort of game as a witch. I guess from the looks of it so far, it's like a Hogwarts Legacy thing, but without the Harry Potter IP and without the combat from the looks of it. And Moonshell Island is like a top-down sort of like pixel sprite sort of like SNES era sort of action sort of game. Think Legend of Zelda-esque sort of thing. Actually, given the opening and the way it goes, kind of think Link's Awakening probably is actually the better comparison. But yeah, there were so many reveals. Not all of them are going to be my sort of thing, and I've already found out that sadly Moonshell Island was Windows only. I think of the ones that were shown, Battle Cakes and Witchery Academy kind of have my interest the most. I think Battle Cakes has the problem it's got a lot of competition with a lot of other turn-based RPGs, whereas Witchery Academy has the problem of, do I really want to delve into a life sim? They are a big time consumer when you really get into one. But it is like very charming in design and such. And again, it's the sort of thing that if I was still doing Souldin short starts, Nanka would fit in so well with Witchery Academy. And I do like witches, so. Then we had the Ubisoft event. The interesting thing about that is, frankly, it was the best presentation in terms of presentation. Not so much content. I wasn't too enticed by the content, though there was the odd thing that was pretty good. Ubisoft event, however, was spectacular in how it had trailers, gameplay, and commentary throughout. It had all three of them for a lot of the games. Let's see, they started off with their Rainbow Six Extraction, which they had to change from its previous name, and they had a fantastic showcasing that. I had a very clear understanding of what that game was. There was also Riders Republic. That was a little bit confusing at first, because I first thought, it's going to be like a sort of boarding game sort of thing, snowboarding game, but then it turned out to be a cycling game, and then it turned out to be a parasailing game. It turned out to be literally everything, sort of all these vehicle things on this sort of small island sort of thing. We could both race, do challenges, and open world explore. Riders Republic, I don't think it's the sort of thing I've ever expressed interest in myself, but frankly, it looked really cool. It looked really creative, and it was spectacularly shown off. Riders Republic was actually one of the coolest parts of Ubisoft's presentation. And they also had another cool thing in the form of Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Mario plus Rabbids 2. Unfortunately, that got leaked ahead of time, and that would have made a great surprise. Only that was the problem. Ubisoft's big sort of show here, in my opinion, was leaked. The things that were there was like, that's cool, but not for me. Which, to be fair, is often a thing I get from E3. But frankly, the fact that they had a cool presentation is still, well, pretty cool. So, good on you, Ubisoft. You nailed how you went about it. Gotta say, though, Just Dance being revealed, sort of shown off without the sort of live stage theatre performance of all its wackiness going on is one of the most boring things ever. Like, you shouldn't even be bothering with Just Dance if you can't have that wacky stage performance. There needs to be a bit of flair to it. Just, announcing it with a person talking doesn't work. Then there was the Square event. The Square event was kind of terrible, but it did produce the Chaos meme, so hey ho, good on you that. I'm a little disappointed that they're doing a Final Fantasy spin-off and then, they did this like Final Fantasy spin-off of Final Fantasy 1 and Garland, who's a really cool antagonist in my opinion, really likeable, love his design, and then it's just like Souls Ninja Gaiden combined sort of game with a very boring protagonist who just shouts chaos repeatedly. Apparently, I think there was an interview where, admittedly, I'm getting this from a comedy news video, but apparently there was an interview where the creator of the game the producer of the game, wanted to tell the story of an angry man. But yeah, the Final Fantasy Origin thing, no interest. The Guardians of the Galaxy game, somewhat interesting. They went on for way too long with it, but I gotta say it does look pretty cool. A significant upgrade compared to the Marvel's Avengers game that released from Square Enix last year. But unfortunately, that's not saying much. It doesn't take much to be an improvement over that Avengers game. The Guardians of the Galaxy one, from the get-go, a big step up, looks kind of cool. Unfortunately, I would have considered it, but unfortunately, so many other games got announced later on, as well as with the Wholesome Direct, that it got pushed down in my expectations. I've got a top 12 here, and it didn't make the cut. I don't think it would have even made the cut for top 20. I think by the end I listed about 30 games that got my interest, but it kept being pushed down and down because so much other cool stuff was shown. And that was the thing that the Square Enix present focused on. So yeah, not going great for them. Yeah, the Square event kind of was terrible. Limited Run Games was next apparently, and that was awkward and cringy as heck. Also, a lot of their stuff was PlayStation focused. You gotta say, there was good humour, but the further it went on, the more kind of, let's get a little bit, could you lessen the jokes a little bit? They lose a lot of their punch when you use them so frequently. Also, I don't even know if Limited Run Games actually release their games in outside of America. I don't know if they're actually published only in America, but it's cool that there's a company who focuses on getting indie games with physical releases. I was really disappointed that the Shantae Collection was a PlayStation 5 exclusive, but that's how it goes. There were some pretty cool things. For instance, their port of Castlevania Rondo of Blood for the TurboGrafx CD, finding the English translation out there for the original hardware. Really cool, really off-the-wall sort of thing. Spectacular sort of thing to do, and really good timing for it given the Netflix Castlevania announcement of doing a sequel to their Netflix Castlevania focused on the storyline of Rondo of Blood with Richter Belmont and Maria. But the two games that caught my eye the most from the Limited Run Games Presents was Republic, which it took a while for me to get the information, but apparently it is coming to Switch with a physical release. It's a stealth game, and you sort of control, help guide the person from, security camera sort of thing, and various computer systems. You could be an AI for all I know, but you're trying to help navigate this girl who's trapped in this kind of Metal Gear Solid style sort of area to help her escape. And the other game that caught my eye was One Step from Eden, which is basically a spiritual successor to Mega Man Battle Network, but with waifus. And also, you see your victory animation seems to be paying a dog, so there you go, that's also pretty cool. Both of those are apparently getting physical releases as well as Switch releases. Again, a lot of it was either PlayStation 5 / PlayStation 4 or Switch focused. Not much as a Xbox Series X gamer, but I do also own a Switch, so okay, I've got that avenue for it. But Limited Run Games, it was a shorter presentation at 30 minutes compared to the others. Jokes, they went a bit too much on, and it kind of got annoying after a while. But the humour was good at first. But hey, again, Ubisoft was still the kings of actually presenting the stuff. They had the sort of free things in good form. Then there was the Capcom Presents, which was, they got me interested in their games, like Monster Hunter Stories 2, which my eldest brother really wants. If it wasn't for the fact that I hadn't played the original game and I already know my eldest brother is going to get it no matter what, I would actually be interested in it thanks to that presentation. I'm also rather interested in the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. It helps that I don't have to know about all the other Ace Attorney games to actually consider playing it. it has a really good showcasing of the mechanics, and they were the sort of games that Capcom presented were presented well. The problem is they went to E3 and didn't announce a single new game. They should have just upfront and said, we haven't got any new games to announce. Here's a showcase of the games that are releasing this year, though. But no, they just went up there, just sort of like try to make it seem like they had something big, and then presented no new games, which was kind of an awful way to do things. They needed to be honest and straightforward with it, even though it probably meant less people would have actually bothered clicking in if they already knew in advance there was no new announcement. Of course, the big things were, of course, the Xbox and Nintendo presentations. And the Xbox, well, you might have already been able to tell from my reaction video. By the time I even reacted to the Nintendo stuff, I did sort of look back to the Xbox and think, I was a bit too harsh with it in my initial reactions. Ultimately, a lot of my opinions of the games haven't changed too much. Like, ultimately, there isn't much for me in 2021, and I do feel that all the games that I'm particularly excited for, Slime Rancher 2, Party Animals, and the Eodin Chronicles games, both the 100 Heroes and the Rising, the ones that interest me the most, all those are 2022 or 2023, and the games I wanted to see most of all, like Fable and Avowed, weren't present. But in terms of presentation, in terms of content and variety, Microsoft certainly nailed it, and they certainly showcased a lot of games that were actually still coming out in 2021. A lot of them I don't enjoy, a lot of them that I'm not sure I'd get because there's too much competition. Like Halo Infinite had a pretty good showcasing of its multiplayer element. I'd be more into the campaign than the multiplayer, but hey, it had a good showcasing of that. Stalker 2 had a fantastic trailer. Admittedly, I've seen just how much its file size is, where I'm questioning whether they bothered with condensing it at all. But I think the Stalker 2 trailer was fantastic. Granted, Obsidian nailed it with their sort of trailers with Grounded and The Outer Worlds 2. However, I did wish, they at least did the same sort of thing with Avowed. Just show a little bit of gameplay. Come on. But yeah, the Microsoft presentation was actually pretty good. Not a lot for me, but hey, it shows that they've got good, strong showings. And from the looks of it, with what has been said about Fable and Avowed, it seems likely that they'll be showing up instead at next year's E3. So it actually makes next year's E3 much more exciting for me, expecting that the games that I'm more interested in myself are more likely to show up at the next E3. So, woo! Come on, Xbox Series X 2022. And then, of course, we had the Nintendo one, which, I don't blame anyone for the reaction of Nintendo One E3. Like, I can understand people saying, Xbox won it on, because Xbox had a huge amount of games to showcase. But they weren't my sort of thing, and Nintendo was just filled with stuff I want. Let's see, just going over the list, Metroid Dread, Astro Ascending, Fatal Frame, Cruise and Blast, Advance Wars Reboot Camp, and WarioWare. And that's not to mention the ones that even somewhat enticed me. I mean, Monster Hunter Stories 2 was showcased again, the new Mario Party. If WarioWare wasn't about, the Mario Party Superstars would have grabbed my interest, but WarioWare kind of, overshadows it. Worms Rumble, that's also a neat little game to have pop up there. And a lot of other games that I know certain people would be thrilled to bits with. I know there are quite a lot of fans like Danganronpa and Shin Megami Tensei 5, so I know that sort of thing. There's, of course, whilst, the Breath of the Wild 2, Breath of the Wild Rage stuff doesn't interest me, a lot of people would be very happy about the Zelda stuff. I will never go over the hilarity that the Zelda Game & Watch doesn't include the actual Legend of Zelda Game & Watch game. Admittedly, I can see why, because they've gone with a single-screen Game & Watch device instead of a flip screen, and the Zelda Game & Watch was a two-screen game. But it's a real shame that, they haven't really released that, so no one really gets to experience that old Legend of Zelda game on the Game & Watch systems. But yeah, the Nintendo's one was mind-blowing. Like, I do think, again, Ubisoft had the better presentation, trailer, gameplay, developer commentary, but there was a good bit of commentary, there was a good bit of game, trailers with focus on the gameplay rather than CGI, so doing pretty good there. Could have been a bit better presented, but they, Nintendo only give themselves like 40 to 45 minutes. Maybe if they had an hour-long direct, you're not showing anything new, but just further delving into the games that were shown, it would have been a better thing. But hey-ho. Nintendo just came out with so many games, and if you've watched my react video, my reaction to Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater, aka Project Zero Maiden of Blackwater, as we know over here, getting released worldwide, was a pretty big one. So yeah, just quickly, before I end the video, my top 12 announcements, and I actually struggled with this. There was like 15 or so games that was like being considered for the top 12. But the top 12 stuff being either announced or shown off for the first time, because some of these things could have also already been announced, but I'd never seen them before. The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles at number 12, because I've never really played an Ace Attorney game, but I had a pretty good showcasing of the game. And it's a new saying, so that it'd be easier for a new person to delve into. And the sort of like, I like how with Horlock Sholmes, they're presenting him as flawed but never stupid, which is pretty good. Like, the problem with a lot of the sort of you can get with a lot of these detective things or such is they'll present the sort of rival character as being an idiot in the sort of thing, and you know, not as smart as you. But but Horlock Sholmes, which is just funny to say, does have good explanations for deductive reasoning, and when you point out the errors of it, he does actually follow through with your protagonist's train of thought and actually help solve the case in the sort of like following on, that's a detail I missed. Okay, going off of that, yeah, here's the real deduction, and it's really neat how they kind of bounce off one another. And I also really like the sort of jury scene, being able to compare, you know, the witness/jury statements against one another in the court itself. Number 11, Witchery Academy. You know, kind of hesitant to dive back into a life sim, but a life sim focused on adorable art style and witches certainly is one that I'd be, you know, as the person who goes about a witch avatar in the form of Nanka here, it's certainly something I wouldn't mind playing. I think there's so much coming out this year that it'd quite struggle, but you know, if I had more time and more money to buy games, then it'd certainly be one and particularly if I was doing Stolen Short Start still, it'd be one I'd grab. Number 10, Astria Ascending. I kind of wish to know a little bit more, and I think pretty sure it's going to be digital only, but it was great to see Astria Ascending game. It was first shown off at like an Xbox Series X presentation. I love the art style for it. It's very Vanillaware sort of esque, and yet ironically it's from a completely new developer made up not of former Vanillaware developers, but former Square Enix developers. Apparently a lot of original turn-based Final Fantasy veterans are working on the game. And of course, saying that immediately goes, wow, that's going to be amazing if true. Yeah, I you know, of course, absolutely love the turn-based Final Fantasy games. So, Astria Ascending looks fantastic, sort of thing, in a visual sense, and I just love seeing turn-based RPG gameplay. The only problem with turn-based games, in my opinion, is the fact that they're often way too long, so I never get around to completing most of them. That's why I appreciate stuff like the Mario and Luigi games. You know, Mario and Luigi's Partners in Time, people criticise that a lot, but it was short, so I could actually complete it. Number 9, One Step from Eden. I've only played like one Mega Man Battle Network game, but I really enjoyed Mega Man Battle Network. That one Mega Man Battle Network game. I think it was like number 4 I ended up playing. I also was a fan of the Mega Man Battle Network anime quite a bit back in the day. It's what I thought Mega Man was for a long while. I didn't know about classic Mega Man and such, so I thought the Battle Network series was actual Mega Man. You know, the one and only. Surprised with all the spin-offs, but yeah, One Step from Eden looks cute, looks fun, looks fast-paced. It has lots of fantastic character designs. I tend to not go straight into lean too much into the pixel games per se, but I think it looks pretty swell, and it's nice that it's a spiritual successor to a game sort of type that you don't see much of. Mega Man Battle Network is pretty distinct, so having that alive in some form through One Step from Eden is pretty darn cool. Next up, at number 8, Cruisin' Blast. It's an old school arcade racer, like filled with colourful visuals, and one I think I'm going to get the kids into pretty easy, particularly the Little Abyss, because there's a unicorn Pegasus in the game with rainbows and pink wings, so you know she'll love that immediately. I'm pretty sure that the Little Sunshine would love seeing the level of the dinosaurs and such. It looks like such a fun, fast-paced, frantic sort of game, you know, kind of Excite Trek-esque, but in a more kind of Excite Truck-esque in a sense, and I had such a fun time playing that recently, so a game like that was pretty cool, and weirdly enough, it's a game that Nintendo's had a hand in for, a series that Nintendo has had a hand in for a long time. I think they helped with the actual arcade release. It's like a Midway Nintendo collaboration, the Cruisin' series was, I believe. So it's like a really obscure, sort of like weird part of Nintendo history that you don't tend to know much about, sort of thing. You know, the fact that it's like got Nintendo sort of like backing to it isn't often mentioned. Moving on, we got number 7, Pie Animals. I've seen Beerbot play this game. It looks, absolutely hilarious. And I could imagine having a lot of fun in a local sort of pie saying, bring out a pie sort of thing. And it'd probably be Xbox Series like X I get on. But hey, if I ever decide to get online on the Xbox systems, I think it'd be a fun one to be able to play with others online. Particularly if it's able to connect or cross-play with PCs as well. I could probably play with a lot of friends if I decided to get the full version of that. And so it was really cool seeing that familiar game. Number 6, Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes. I didn't really see enough of Rising to put in my top 12, so spoiler warning, no Rising here. But Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is a turn-based RPG with fantastic style to it. And I was thinking that was just going to be the overworld with its sort of fantastic Octopath-esque style. But no, that's also in the sort of gameplay scenes as well. The sort of like over-the-camera sort of shoulder view for a lot of the character perspective is really amazing. And it already looks pretty funny. It's got a lot of humour on display from that get-go. And I love the animations, and they're more willing to go with little cartoony things like the little speedy legs sort of thing. Fantastic to sort of like look at. So it's apparently a spiritual successor to Sudoken or Sukoden. I've never actually played the game at all, but I know there's a lot of people who are a fan of this Konami IP. So Eiyuden Chronicles is a spiritual successor, given that Konami aren't doing anything with their IPs. Number 5, I forgot to actually put the subtitles in. Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp is apparently getting a physical release. It's being developed by WayForward. It looks absolutely beautiful. It's going to have multiplayer and online play. I love Advance Wars. I'm terrible at them. Like Advance Wars 1s, I spent like sort of like 6 hours on the tutorial alone, and on the DS game I got stuck like on like 4th chapter, 5th chapter. I'm not very good at them, but they are fun. They have a lot of charm to them. Really good sort of character designs. And if it's getting a physical release, that's definitely like, I think basically with this Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, if it's physical, then that's a definite. Because I've seen it's just that it is physical, but that also it's going to be a full price game at like sort of 50 quid sort of thing, 50 to 60 quid, which digitally, I don't like spending 50 quid sort of thing on a digital only game, but physically that is tempting. I'm not really good at the game, but hey, that is very tempting, and it's just so nice to see an obscure Nintendo IP get revived like that. Number 4, Slime Rancher 2. This is immediately excitement for my nephew, the little hurricane, who's a big fan of Slime Rancher. And I also know other people who are fans of Slime Rancher series, such as Beer Bop. But Slime Rancher 2 was a unexpected announcement, a nice sort of splash of colour during the Microsoft presentation. And it's a game that the only thing that holds me back from trying out really is the fact that I like the chickens more than the slimes, so you have to feed the chickens some of the slimes. Like, no, not the chickens! No, me little chickens! Yeah, absolutely vibrant game. Real unexpected turn-up sort of thing. And definitely something I'm going to keep my eye out on, and because I know others enjoy it as well, sort of thing. Which, when you know others who enjoy the game as well, that kind of helps encourage you more to try out, sort of thing. Because, you hear their excitement, enjoyment of it. So you think, maybe I can share it as well, and then you can talk with them about it, sort of thing. Number 3, Metroid Dread. Whilst admittedly a lot of the excitement is more for Rafi, who's a big fan of Metroid Fusion, and Kiris, who's played a lot of the Metroid games as well and is a big fan, I also really enjoyed Metroid Fusion myself, and it's just so cool that the 5th mainline Metroid game is finally sort of releasing. The Fusion storyline is following up, and I've heard rumours that apparently this is going to be the end of the Metroid storyline, which is a little worrying actually, because the last Metroid in existence is Samus now after the events of Fusion. The reason there's any Metroid about is because she had Metroid DNA added to her in order to have her survive. So yeah, really excited about that game. And even though it's probably not going to be me who owns it, though it may be a Christmas present for some people, I'll probably still get to play it, even though I don't own the game itself, because one of my brothers will probably own it. So yeah, really looking forward to that now. Fantastic reveal. And hey, for all those people saying about, Metroid's not getting anything for its anniversary, there you go. It's got Metroid Dread. Now to wait on Federation Force 2. Number 2, and a game I'm definitely getting, WarioWare Get It Together. WarioWare Smooth Moves was like the best game I've played so far with my Wii Wonders review series. And so it's gotten really excited for WarioWare's gameplay. And WarioWare Get It Together allows you to actually directly control the cast of characters through the minigames, which is fantastic because WarioWare has an absolutely amazing cast of characters which should be better utilised. And here we go, they're being better utilised. You're actually able to control them themselves during these micro games, and it's really cool. The co-op function, particularly cool, and it makes a lot of sense with the Switch Joy-Cons. And that comes out in September. So yeah, Mario Pie, it's a shame. Like, Mario Pie was like, oh, that's a real cool idea, bring back old boards and such. But then WarioWare Get It Together, I'm sorry, Mario Pie, yep, out of the way. It's kind of sad that they're releasing them both in the same year, because they've both been good games to consider. But no, WarioWare Get It Together is like the definite one there. And definitely getting a physical release coming out September. So the moment I can pop over to the nearest city, my nearest game store, I'm going to be pre-ordering WarioWare Get It Together. That's a definite one. And Another game that's definite, even though I've heard it's only going to be digital only. If you saw my reaction, you probably know which one this is. And number one is the Project Zero Maiden of Blackwater ports. Some might say, isn't it a bit sad that your biggest announcement is ports of a game? And it's like, no, it's not sad at all. I absolutely love this game. Absolutely delighted to see Project Zero Maiden of Blackwater sort of get some more life. Absolutely excited that the Project Zero series is getting some love in its 20th anniversary outside of the pachinko machine. And of course, I'm always delighted to see more of my waifu, Yuri Kozukata. Fantastic protagonist. Absolutely adore her to bits. Yeah, whilst of course it's going to be... I feel the Wii version will always still be the better version thanks to the gamepad working so well for the camera mechanic. It will be fun to be able to play with, again, with a higher graphics to it, higher frame rate. Because like the rain effect, it looks beautiful on the Wii U with its rain effect, so I'm really excited to see what it can look like on Xbox Series X. And that was a surprising thing. It was my favorite thing from the Nintendo Direct, but apparently it's releasing on all modern consoles. Koei Tecmo broke a deal with Nintendo, who co-owns the sort of series, or partially owns ownership of the series. They published 2 of the game, sort of 2 to 3 of the games, so they have some sort of it's a strange rights wrangling with Nintendo and Koei Tecmo with the Project Zero series. But yeah, Project Zero Maiden of Blackwater will be releasing on all modern systems, and apparently with a photo mode, as in like to take selfies and such, and be able to set up the ghosts and characters where you want through your own creative photos, sort of like stage sort of photos, as well as new costumes, because of course the Wii version had Nintendo themed costumes in the Zelda outfit and the Zero Suit Samus outfit. However, they can't use those for those other systems, so it's going to have all new costumes, and I'm kind of curious and I'm really excited to see what costumes they are. Whether they're just going to do the original sort of uncensored bikini outfits, which I really hope they did do so, because one of the characters, Miu, needs her bikini outfit costume to actually make sense in her storyline, because the cutscene without it just kind of looks weird. Because there's one cutscene where it's actually story relevant. Like, I can understand you didn't need the Yuri Kozukata's bikini costume, but Miu's was actually story relevant. It served a purpose. A small one, but it served a purpose. And you made the cutscene look weird, replacing it with just a regular outfit. Excited to see more on that. We'll probably get my Xbox Series X. From what I hear, it's going to be digital only, except in Japan, and only on the Switch. So it might be only physical only on the Switch, but I probably will get on Xbox Series X to like differ up the sort of thing. And it's not like the Switch can have like you own the Wii version, you get all this bonus content. But I'm super excited about going back through Project Zero Maiden of Blackwater and playing as Yuri Kozukata again. And oh gosh, it was such a surprise. Like it's such a niche sort of horror series that I didn't expect it'd get any love. I thought the Pachinko Machine was going to be it, but no, it's receiving more love, and that's fantastic. So yeah, there was a lot that got me excited about E3. It was a bit mixed, but frankly, the fact that they were able to do such an impressive E3, given the events of the world as of late, is incredibly impressive, and I boost that up to a really good ranking. More so than a lot of E3s of past, I had a lot to be excited over. And they didn't even have a Kirby game, and I had a lot to be excited about. So yeah, those are my thoughts, and I received a lot of information and such, and those are my thoughts on the stuff revealed at E3. It's a pretty lengthy video, so I hope you really enjoyed this one with how much you had to watch to get through it all. Please tell me your thoughts about E3 below. Tell me what games you were excited for of like all these presentations. Tell me if there's any that I've mentioned here that you're like, I didn't know about that, I'll have to look that up. And cheer everyone! And I'll be sure to try and make more E3 videos for next year as well, hopefully. So, see you at E3, see you for videos related to E3 2022, hopefully.